I hope I've answered your question.
That's close, and I understand that. But another thing that I would like to know is how many students were in the classroom with Lucas?
In the classroom, we had a typical classroom of approximately 18 students.
And and the regular classrooms these days have anywhere from 25 to 27 to 30.
Yes, correct. And remember, my situation was I was working on a Native American reservation, and our class sizes were a little smaller than your typical average class size. And I do recognize the issue about high class sizes and not enough time to plan for every student. But I still believe it can be done, and we need to find time during the day to be able to get kids back into regular education classroom to enjoy the full inclusion. Let me also say, not every child out there this would work for. There are situations where we have aggressive, violent children who have significant neurological, emotional disorders that you cannot have them because of safety issues. But where we can do this, we need to do it. It's the right thing to do.
I understand that, and I agree in part with what you were saying.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the question. We will continue.
Okay.
We will continue. Okay, if you have a question, feel free to phone in your questions, East, West, and Middle Tennessee, and we will continue. Does anybody in the audience have a question? Okay. Thank you. Moving right along. So what tiering is not? Tiering, I want you to know, is not one thing. It is not a program. It's not a curriculum. It is not the goal. Tiering is not 25 different plans for one classroom. And I think that's what I felt the speaker on the question was trying to get to. But it is not that. If you are planning for each child individually, this is not what tiering is. Remember, tiering is part of the process of differentiated instruction. It is one instructional strategy it's a sliver, a small piece of differentiated instruction. There are several other pieces to differentiated instruction, but I have found tiering to be the most important one so that we can have fully inclusive practices. And teachers are not trained in this particular way on how to tier. And I'm going to give you this step by step. I know you're probably out there wondering, so what is that recipe? I'm going to share that with you in a few moments. So it is not a chaotic classroom. Sometimes people misunderstand that and they say, hey, there's a lot of chaos. You got centers. You got all kinds of different abilities. You got different activities. You got audio. You got video. It sounds like it's chaos, but it's not. It needs to be handled well. Also, it's not just homogeneous grouping. That means same ability grouping. Okay? So I just want to dispel all of those myths as we go along. Something you need to know about tiered instruction, it is assessment. Assessment in a tiered instruction classroom, my recommendation for that, you should do one of two things. You should do it either summative evaluations or formative evaluations. Better still, if it could be rubrics. Let me give you an example of how this looks like on this Almo. If we could zoom in, I want you to take a look at the Almo, and I'm going to talk about this. What you see in front of you, we have students' names. This is if you can imagine, this is a file folder. On each folder there's an index card, each one overlapping the other. Can you imagine that? All index cards taped down, one overlapping the other, left side, right side. This is how you do it. You would take this index card and you will write your progress notes as students are doing the work. And you will do real-time assessment, walking over to students while they are working and take notes on their card. This is one way of doing it. All you have to do is flip the card, index card, go to that student and record their progress in real time. Date, grade, rubric, progress, less, more, whatever rubric you want to use. But this is a way to do it. This is a great way to do it. Here's another thing. If you want to do something, we had Lucas do an exit card. Let's take a look at that. On proper infractions, and this is just an example of an exit card. We did not use this with Lucas, but this is one that you could use in math. List 3 things you learned. write at least one question you have about improper fractions. And once you got that, and the teacher read that, that was an exit card out of that activity, and they moved to another activity. That's an exit card. Okay? So you can do this very in multiple ways. Here's another thing that I'm very excited to share with you. This is, if there's nothing else you remember in my presentation, remember this. Remember this. This is, if we can get the whole thing showed. Let's see if I can zoom back out from here. Thank you, thank you. Excellent. Fantastic. Okay, this is a planning pyramid. I'm going to train you today on how to use this planning pyramid. This planning pyramid, if you're probably asking, where is the pyramid? Well, here it is. That's your planning pyramid. Notice at the bottom, if we can zoom in right here, it says what all students should learn. What all students should learn, right there. And notice, here's an example. If you are doing something on Earth's surface, very basic information, forces that change crust and weather and erosion. Everybody gets this. Everybody must know this, okay? The second part in your lesson planning, this is what we did for Lucas. We did the pyramid, planning pyramid. And this is what we did behind the scenes. The second part is what most students will learn. Let's zoom in right here, if you can see that. And here's what most students will learn about the same thing. Compare and contrast weathering and erosion, how humans cause physical and chemical weathering, basic types of rocks. Notice there's a progression. Do you see that on this pyramid? Okay. And lastly, on the top, the pinnacle, and we can zoom into that. And this is what some students will learn, usually your advanced learners, and how Earth looked during the Ice Age. Disasters caused by sudden changes, geographic examples of slow and fast changes. Do you see the differences? Yes, this is what tiering is all about, folks. We are taking our lesson and we are putting it on a pyramid. And I challenge you, listening in there, into my presentation today, take this pyramid with you wherever you go in consulting and collaborating with your regular teachers, because this is going to make a whole lot of sense to them. Lucas, for most part, was always at the bottom, what everywhere would get. But we would also put an asterisk, going back to my Almo, take a look at this asterisk. Take a look at this asterisk here. Right there. Do you see that? The asterisk here and here? We actually wrote down on that pyramid